It lay upon the table, proudly displayed. "The best Christmas pudding," said Mum, "ever made. You'll find out just how good in a minute. I've put some special ingredients in it." It did seem sort of strange somehow. I couldn't quite describe it now. Like something from the fourth dimension. "It is," said Mum, "my own invention. You'll all remember this, don't doubt it." Gran peered. "There's something odd about it." "Well, here we go," smiled Mum with pride, and grasped the knife that lay beside. "This is how a pudding should be made." The candlelight gleamed off the blade. There was a hush. Time seemed to stop. The knife blade touched the pudding top. The room shook. In a blinding flash, a huge bang and a mighty crash. "Aliens," I thought. "Is my laser loaded?" But no, the pudding had exploded. Oh, we sat there stunned in frozen poses. Bits of it were up our noses. Mum looked very close to tears. Bits of it were in our ears. Bits of it dropped down the chair. Bits of it were in our hair. Still no one moved. Oh, from where we sat. Bits of it were on the cat. "Well then," said Dad, "no need to wait." Yes, bits of it were on our plate. "You're right, dear. Each year in December, this is a dish that we'll remember." I've got woolen underpants, and by Jove, I'm glad I've got 'em, 'cause when you toboggan and slide in the snow, you can get a very cold bottom.
I really can't stay.
Baby, it's cold outside.
I gotta go away.
Baby, it's cold outside.
This evening has
Been hoping that you
so
dropped in.
very nice.
I'll hold your hands, they're just like
My mother
ice.
will start to
Beautiful, what's your
worry. My father will
hurry?
be pacing the floor.
Listen to that fireplace
So
roar.
really I had better stay.
Beautiful, please don't
Maybe
hurry.
just a half a drink
Put
more.
some records on while I pour.
Neighbors might think,
Baby, it's bad out there.
say, what's in this drink?
No cabs to be had out there.
I wish I knew how.
Your eyes are like starlight
to break
now.
this spell.
I'll take your hat, your hair looks
I
swell.
ought to say no, no,
Mind
no,
if I'm
sir.
moving
At
closer?
least I'm gonna say that I tried.
What's the sense of hurting my
Really
pride?
can't stay.
Baby, don't hold out.
Baby,
Baby, it's cold outside.
Oh, you're very pushy there with this drink.
I like to think of it as opportunistic.
I simply must go.
Baby, it's cold outside.
The answer is no.
But baby, it's cold outside.
Welcome has been
How lucky that you
so
dropped in.
nice and warm.
Look out the window at that
My
snow.
sister will be suspicious.
Gosh, your lips look
My
delicious.
brother will be there at the door.
Waves upon a tropical
My
shore.
maiden aunt's mind is
Gosh,
vicious.
your lips are
Maybe
delicious.
just a cigarette more.
Never
I
such
don't
a
even
blizzard
smoke.
before.
Gotta get home.
Baby, you'll freeze out there.
Say, lend me a coat.
It's up to your knees out there.
You've really been
I
grand.
thrill when I
But
touch your
don't
hand.
you see?
How can you do this thing to me?
It's bound to be talk to
Think of my lifelong
At least
sorrow.
there will be plenty of
And if you get
love.
pneumonia and
Really
die,
can't stay.
get over that holdout.
Baby, it's cold.
Baby, it's cold outside.
Okay, one more drink then.
December. My dearest darling, that partridge in that lovely little pear tree. What an enchanting, romantic, poetic present. Bless you and thank you. Your deeply loving Emily. 26th December. My dearest, darling Edward, the 2 turtle doves arrived this morning and are cooing away in the pear tree as I write. I'm so touched and grateful. With undying love as always, Emily. 27th of December. My darling Edward, you do think of the most original presents. Whoever thought of sending anybody 3 French hens? Do they really come all the way from France? It's a pity that we have no chicken coops, but I expect we'll find some. Thank you anyway. They're lovely. Your loving Emily. 28th of December. Dearest Edward, what a surprise. 4 calling birds arrived this morning. They are very sweet, even if they do call rather loudly. But I expect they'll calm down when they get used to their new home. Anyway, I'm very grateful. Oh, of course I am. Love from Emily. 29th of December. Dearest Edward, the postman has just delivered 5 most beautiful gold rings, 1 for each finger, and all fitting perfectly. A really lovely present. Lovelier in a way than birds, which do take rather a lot of looking after. The 4 that arrived yesterday are still making a terrible row, and I'm afraid none of us got much sleep last night. Mummy says she wants to use the rings to wring their necks. She's only joking, I think, though I know what she means. But I do love the rings. Bless you. Love, Emily. 30th of December. Dear Edward, whatever I expected to find when I opened the front door this morning, it certainly wasn't 6 socking great geese laying eggs all over the doorstep. Frankly, I rather hoped you had stopped sending me birds. We have no room for them, and they have already ruined the croquet lawn. I know you meant well, but let's call it a halt, shall we, please? Love, Emily. 31st of December. Edward, I thought I said no more birds, but this morning I woke up to find no less than 7 swans all trying to get into our tiny goldfish pond. I'd rather not think what happened to the goldfish. The whole house seems to be full of birds, to say nothing of what they leave behind them. Please, please stop. Your Emily. 1st of January. Frankly, I think I prefer the birds. What am I to do with 8 milkmaids and their cows? Is this some kind of joke, Edward? If so, I'm afraid I don't find it very amusing. Emily. 2nd of January. Look here, Edward, this has gone far enough. You say you're sending me 9 ladies dancing. Well, all I can say is that judging from the way they dance, they're certainly not ladies. The village just isn't accustomed to seeing a regiment of shameless hussies with nothing on but their lipstick cavorting around the green, and it's Mummy and I who get blamed. If you value our friendship, which I do less and less, kindly stop this ridiculous behaviour at once. Emily. 3rd of January. As I write this letter, 10 disgusting old men are prancing about all over what used to be the garden, before the geese and the swans and the cows got at it, and several of them, I notice, are taking inexcusable liberties with the milkmaids. Meanwhile, the neighbours are trying to have us evicted. Edward, I shall never speak to you again. Emily. 4th of January. This is the last straw. You know I detest bagpipes. The place has now become something between a menagerie and a madhouse, and the man from the council has just declared it unfit for habitation. At least Mummy has been spared this last outrage. They took her away yesterday afternoon in an ambulance. I hope you're satisfied, Edward. Emily. 5th of January. Sir, our client, Miss Emily Wilbraham, instructs me to inform you that with the arrival on her premises at 7:30 this morning, the entire percussion section of the Liverpool Philharmonic Orchestra and several of their friends, she has no course left open to her but to seek an injunction to prevent your Ippon tuning her further. I am making several arrangements for the return of the much assorted livestock. Miss Wilbraham will, however, be keeping the rings. I am, sir, yours faithfully, G. Creep, Solicitor at Law.
"'Twas the night before Christmas, not too long ago, when the streets of the town were all covered in snow. No rain filled the gutters, no wind shook the tree. The trains were on time and the traffic ran free. But still, though we're warmed by those global effects and programmes on telly are all about sex, we've managed to cling to the hopes and the joys that we had when we were little girls and little boys. When my dad gave my mum a new perfume called Heaven, and Westlife was something you found down in Devon. There were nuts and satsumas, roast goose and high teas, instead of Nigella, cell phones and CDs. But in spite of the changes, the fastness of life, through it all shines the tale of a man and his wife. They journeyed at night through darkness and danger to give birth to a son in a dusty old manger.
They were dressing the tree, and Freddie had the angel in his hand, ready for the top branches.
Freddie, you're only 5 and not going up there without the proper steps. They've a screw loose and jammed, so Dad's going to fix them first thing tomorrow.
That's right, son. Get yourself off to bed now, and I'll have the steps fixed, and Bob's your uncle.
Dad, Bob's not my uncle, it's Simon,
Freddie said gruffly.
Yep, spot on. Now, step into your pyjamas, and up we go and in we go. Sleep well.
Freddie was disappointed, but he'd gone past his bedtime doing the tree and was very tired, so he fell asleep very quickly. The sound of crying disturbed Freddie. Or was it the cat Marmalade, who'd gone walkabout for a whole week and now wanted to be let in? No, there was an angel in the garden sitting on a swing. Head in hand, the angel cried softly.
What's wrong?
Freddie asked.
I'm lost,
The angel replied.
Well, sit for a bit on our garden bench until you remember where you are going.
The angel floated over.
Dad made the bench. It's nicer with cushions on, but they get wet outside.
The angel stopped crying. Its wings shook, displaying shimmering stars mixed in with trailing feathers.
Ooh, do that again.
Freddie said.
Some of your sparkles have fallen on the grass. I think it might be a sprinkling of snow.
And the angel shivered its feathers again. Freddie laughed, delighted. A bright moon made the angel's feathers luminous.
Can you fly?
Come on now, Freddie, what are these for?
And the angel gave a hop, flapped its wings, and hovered over Freddy's head.
Don't go.
Freddy called.
Sit down and I'll get some cushions. Make you more comfortable.
I wasn't going anywhere. I'm still lost.
Freddy studied the angel, taking in the long hair and glittering shoes. An owl flew over the moon.
Are you a man or a woman?
Freddy asked.
Angels aren't anything. Just angels.
Then you could have a haircut with me before Christmas. It's a unisex salon. Your hair is very long.
The angel shook its head, making the curls tinkle.
You sound like my triangle at school. I'm in Mrs. Carriage's orchestra. Have you remembered yet where you were going?
Yes, almost. I'm guardian angel to Mr. Potts.
Oh, I know Mr. Potts. He's only a few doors down. Look, he's got a monkey puzzle tree in his garden.
They both looked at the tree, twisting away up to the moon.
Have I got a guardian angel?
Freddy asked.
We're a bit short at the moment. It's the population explosion, so not enough to give everybody one.
Yes, I know. The TV says there are too many people in the world. So, have I got one? You didn't say.
You share one with Mr. Potts. I guess that's why I ended up here. What a muddle.
Can I have you for Christmas?
I'm afraid Mr. Potts has got a Christmas booked because he's lonely.
A desolate hoot came from the owl.
What do you do, guardian angel? Was it you who stopped me falling in the lake last week when I was walking across the ice and it's cracked?
Well, I stand behind you on your shoulder and try to steer you into doing good things.
Mr. Potts doesn't need you like I do. He doesn't play on the ice. He stays in all the time. I guess he won't even come out for Christmas.
That's right. I'll have to stick around and give him company, put songs in his head and make him feel happy.
Well, if I do all those things for him, can I have you for Christmas?
What things?
Well, I could sing my favourite carol to him.
Freddy's voice soared clear as crystal as the angel folded its wings and listened.
Deck the halls with boughs of holly, fa la 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 la. 'Tis the season to be jolly, fa la 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 la.
That's very, very good.
The angel said, unfolding its wings.
I could also deliver his cards. That'll make him feel happy.
The angel shook its glittering wings.
I'll think about it,
Was the reply. Freddy was fascinated every time the angel shook its wings.
Of course, I've got an angel on my tree, but you are more beautiful.
The angel's wings trembled as its feet lifted off the ground.
Just going to check on Mr. Potts. I'll be back soon.
When Freddy came down for breakfast, he saw that Dad had fixed the steps, and he went to pick up the angel for the tree.
Up you go, son. Steady on. Put that ring on top of the branch, and Bob's your uncle.
Dad, stop saying that. It's not true.
The post made a loud plop as a pile of Christmas cards came through the letterbox. Mother was opening and reading them.
Auntie May's still alive. Joe hopes we'll visit him this summer. No chance unless he moves from Reykjavik. Oh, my sister Fanny, off again on a cruise. That woman can't stand the cold.
She can't stand still.
Dad said.
Well, Mr. Potts, that's nice of him. Look, there's an angel on the front, really pretty.
I know. It's his guardian angel, but I've got her for Christmas.
You certainly have.
Mother said, looking up at the tree.
Doesn't he look special right up there in heaven?
Can I take our card round to Mr. Potts? I can tell him about his guardian angel. What I tell him will really make him happy.
What a nice thought, Freddy. Oh, he must be lonely in that bungalow all on his own for Christmas. Tell you what, we can do better than that. I'll have a word with Dad about him coming round for dinner. How's that?
From Little Women by Louisa Alcott. Merry Christmas, Mummy, many of them. Merry Christmas, little daughters. But I want to say one word before we sit down. Not far away from here lies a poor woman with a little newborn baby. 6 children are huddled into one bed to keep from freezing, for they have no fire. There is nothing to eat over there, and the oldest boy came to tell me they were suffering hunger and cold. My girls, will you give them your breakfast as a Christmas present?" They were all unusually hungry, having waited nearly an hour, and for a minute no one spoke. "Only a minute?" For Joe exclaimed impetuously, "I'm so glad you came before we began." "I thought you'd do it," said Mrs. March. "You shall all go and help me, and when we come back we will have bread and milk for breakfast and make it up at dinner time." They were soon ready, and the procession set out. A poor, bare, miserable room it was, with broken windows, no fire, ragged bedclothes, a sick mother, wailing baby, and a group of pale, hungry children cuddled under one old quilt. In a few minutes it really did seem as if kind spirits had been at work there. Hannah, who had carried wood, made a fire and stopped up the broken panes with old hats and her own cloak. The girls, meantime, spread the table, set the children round the fire, and fed them. And when they went away, leaving comfort behind, I think there were not in all the city 4 merrier people than the hungry little girls who gave away their breakfasts and contented themselves with bread and milk on Christmas morning.
Santa baby, just slip the sable under the tree for me. Then an awful good girl, Santa baby, and hurry down the chimney tonight. Santa baby, a 54 convertible to light blue. I'll wait up for you, dear Santa baby, so hurry down the chimney tonight. Think of all the fun I've missed. Think of all the fellas that I haven't kissed. Next year I could be just as good if you'll check out my Christmas list. Santa baby, I want a yacht, and really that's not a lot. Been an angel all year, Santa baby, so hurry down the chimney tonight. Santa cutie, there's one little thing I really need, the deed to a platinum mine. Santa cutie, so hurry down the chimney tonight. Santa honey, and fill my stocking with the duplex and checks. Sign your ex on the line, Santa honey, so hurry down the chimney tonight. Come and trim my Christmas tree with some decorations bought at Tiffany's. I really do believe in you. Now let's see if you believe in me. Santa baby, forgot to mention one little thing, a ring. Oh, I don't mean on the phone, Santa baby, so hurry down the chimney tonight. Hurry down the chimney tonight. And hurry tonight. I'll be waiting up for you.
It was Christmas Eve on a Friday. The shops were full of cheer, with tinsel in the windows and presents twice as dear. 1,000 Father Christmases sat in their little huts, and folk was buying crackers, and folk was buying nuts. All up and down the country, before the light was snuffed, turkeys they get murdered and cockerels they got stuffed. Christmas cakes got marzipanned and puddings they got steamed. Mothers they got desperate and tired kiddies screamed. 100 of Christmas cards went flying through the post, with first-class postage stamps on those you had to flatter most. Within 1 million kitchens mince pies was being made. On everybody's radio, White Christmas it was played. Out in the frozen countryside, men crept round on their own, hacking off the holly what other folks had grown. Mistletoe on willow trees was by a man wrenched clear, so he could kiss his neighbour's wife he'd fancied all the year. And out upon the hillside where the Christmas trees had stood, all was completely barren but for little stumps of wood. The little trees that flourished all the year were there no more, but in 1 million houses dropped their needles on the floor. And out of every cranny, cupboard, hiding place and nook, little bikes and kiddies' trikes were secretively took. Yards of wrapping paper was rustled round about, and bikes were wheeled to bedrooms with pedals sticking out. Rolled up in Christmas paper, the action men were tensed, all ready for the morning when their fighting life commenced. With Tommy guns and daggers all clustered round about, peace on earth, goodwill to men, the figures seemed to shout. The church was standing empty. The pub was standing packed. There came a yell, Noel, Noel, and glasses they got cracked. From up above the fireplace, Christmas cards began to fall, and trodden on the floor said, Merry Christmas to you all.
The Darkling Thrush by Thomas Hardy. I leant upon a coppice gate when frost was spectre grey, and winter's dregs made desolate the weakening eye of day. The tangled vine stems scored the sky like strings of broken lyres, and all mankind that haunted nigh had sought their household fires. The land's sharp features seemed to be the century's corpse outblent, his crypt the cloudy canopy, the wind his death lament. The ancient pulse of German birth was shrunken, hard and dry, and every spirit upon earth seemed feverless as I. At once a voice arose among the bleak twigs overhead, in a full-hearted even-song of joy unlimited. An aged thrush, frail, gaunt and small, in blast-beruffled plume, had chosen thus to fling his soul upon the growing gloom. So little cause for carollings of such ecstatic sound was written on terrestrial things afar or nigh around, that I could think there trembled through his happy good-night air some blessed hope of which he knew, and I was unaware. Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening by Robert Frost. Whose woods these are I think I know. His house is in the village, though. You will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. My little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near, between the woods and frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year. He gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. The only other sounds the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep.
At the bottom of our street, Arthur works. I've seen him lots of times with Black Cake Dan's, under the bonnets of cars and vans. He laughs and swears and sometimes spits. I've seen him pulling cars to bits, then weld them back together again. Smoke a fag, drink some tea, and once he even winked at me at the bottom of our street. At the bottom of our street is a sign, Arthur's Garage, please drive in. Whenever I've passed it, there's such a din. Spanners dropping, hammering, radio blaring classic rock hits, and Miss Arthur still pulling cars to bits. They come in crumpled, they go out sleek. Every day of every week Arthur's there, earning a living as best he can, at the bottom of our street. At the bottom of our street one night, a baby cried, so me and me mates went to check. Danny called out, "Flippin' heck! Someone's left Arthur's doors undone," and in he popped, full of fun. We all followed, sheepish-like, till Titch tripped over a motorbike. "Shh!" we hiss, as we tried to peep at the baby born, at the bottom of our street. At the bottom of our street we saw a mum and child in quiet siesta, getting warm in the back of a Ford Fiesta. The dad said, "As maternity goes, this lacks quite a bit, but eternity knows that a flame has been lit." He talked of a king, so we minded our manners. A king that was born surrounded by spanners. It's funny what happens when you least expect it. At the bottom of our street. At the bottom of our street there came some car mechanics to offer a toast. They'd been in their local, the heavenly host. When they heard of the birth, they were filled with euphoria. They said they were told by someone called Gloria. After raising a glass, they started to pray. Danny said, "Time for a quick getaway." So we sneaked out and left that peculiar scene at the bottom of our street. At the bottom of our street we stared as 3 limousines came gliding by. Out hopped 3 fellas, all starry-eyed. With security guards they popped inside to the baby king. On greasy floor kneeling they gave their gifts, then started to sing. With camel hair coats and jewellery galore, they hopped in the limos and slammed the doors, speeding away as quick as they came from the bottom of our street. At the bottom of our street Arthur works. I've seen him lots of times with Black Cake Dan's, under the bonnets of cars and vans. He laughs and swears and sometimes spits. I've seen him pulling cars to bits, then weld them back together again. "Oi, listen, God's come down to men," called Arthur, sopping at his tea. Was he joking as he winked at me at the bottom of our street?
Chestnuts roasting on an open fire, Jack Frost nipping at your nose, Yuletide carols being sung by a choir, and folks dressed up like Eskimos. Everybody knows a turkey and some mistletoe help to make the season bright. Tiny tots with their eyes all aglow will find it hard to sleep tonight. They know that Santa's on his way. He's loaded lots of toys and goodies on his sleigh, and every mother's child is gonna spy to see if reindeer really know how to fly. simple phrase to kids from 1 to 92. Although it's been said many times, many ways, Merry Christmas to you. And so I'm offering this simple phrase to kids from 1 to 92. Although it's been said many times, many ways, Merry Christmas, have a Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas to you. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Another Night Before Christmas by Carol Ann Duffy. On the night before Christmas, a child in a house, as the whole family slept, behaved just like a mouse, and crept on soft toes down red-carpeted stairs. Her hand held the paw of her favourite bear. The Christmas tree posed with its lights in its arms, newly tinselled and baubled with glittering charms, flirting in flickers of crimson and green against the dull glass of the mute TV screen. The hushed street was in darkness, snow duveted the cars, a stray cat had embroidered each roof with its paws. An owl on an aerial had planets for eyes, the child at the window stared up at the skies. Where 2 aeroplanes sped to the east and the west, they pulled Christmas cracker, the child held her breath, and looked for a sign above as the moon shone down like a gold chocolate coin on the town. Far beyond the quiet suburbs, the motorway droned as it cradled the drivers who murmured at phones, and drove through the small hours this late Christmas Eve, the ones who were faithless and the ones who believed. But the child who was up and long out of her bed saw no visions of sugar plums dance in her head. She planned to discover, for once and for all, if Santa Claus or Father Christmas was real. There were some who said no, he was really just Mum, with big cushions or pillows to plump out her tum, or Dad with a red cloak and a cotton wool beard, a whiskey or 3 down his neck for good cheer. So she took up position behind a big chair that was close to the fireplace. 4 stockings hung there. Quite soon there'd be 1 tangerine in each toe, and she'd be the child who would see and would know. And outside, a lone taxi crunched back into town, where the shops had their shutters like giant eyelids down, and people in blankets with nowhere to go were hunched in shop doorways to keep from the snow. Where a giant plastic Santa climbed up the town hall and security guards dozed or smoked in the mall, the cash points glowed softly like icons of light from corner to corner on Christmas Eve night. Then a shooting star whizzed down the sky from the north. It was fizzing and sparkling as it fell to earth, and growing in size. A young hare in a field gazed up at the sky where it brightened and swelled. It turned into a sleigh made of silver and gold, pulled by a reindeer whose breath chiffoned out in the cold, with bells on their antlers and bells round each hoof. Then clatter they landed on you-know-whose roof. Now herself near the fireplace had fallen asleep, so she missed every word that a voice, warm and deep, was saying above her as each reindeer's name was spoken and flared in the night like a flame. Dasher, whoa, Dancer, whoa, Prancer and Vixen, well done, Comet and Cupid, oh, Donner and Blitzen, what fun. Their shadows of reindeers were patterned on snow, which gift-wrapped the garden 3 stories below. It's a fact that a far-away satellite dish, which observes us from space, cannot know what we wish. Its eye's empty socket films famine and greed, but it cannot see Santa Claus on Christmas Eve. He was dressed all in red from his head to his toes. Also red was the Christmassy glow of his nose. His beard was as white as the flakes that fell down on rich and on poor in this ordinary town. His eyes twinkled like tinsel and starlight and frost, and they knew how to give without counting the cost. He slung on his back a huge sack full of toys to lug down the chimneys of good girls and boys. Dasher snorted and Blitzen poured hard on the roof. They'd a long night before them, and that was the truth. But Santa had vanished, a puff of black soot, and burped out the chimney dislodged by his foot. All this noise woke the child who had fallen asleep, so she popped up her head and made sure she could peep, without being seen at whoever it was who stood by the fireplace. Big wow, Santa Claus! Though she lived in an age where celebrities ruled, and where most of the people were easily fooled by TV and fashion, by money and cars, the little girl knew that this was a real star. Then she watched as the room filled with magic and light, as the spirit of Christmas made everything bright. And suddenly presents were heaped by the tree, but she didn't wonder which ones are for me. For the best gift of all is to truly believe in the wonderful night that we call Christmas Eve, when adults remember all of childhood laws, and this time in December will bring Santa Claus. Santa turned and he winked at her and then disappeared, with a laugh up the chimney with soot in his beard. She ran to the window and watched as his sleigh took off from the roof as he sped on his way. And as long as she lived, she would never forget how he flew as the moon showed him in silhouette, from rooftop to rooftop as he called from his flight, "Happy Christmas to all, and to all a good night."
Morse's Greatest Mystery by Colin Dexter. Lewis knocked on the door of Morse's North Oxford flat. Few had been invited into those book-lined, Wagner-haunted rooms, and even he, Sergeant Lewis, had never felt himself an over-welcome guest, even at Christmas time. Not that it sounded much like the season of goodwill, as Morse waved Lewis inside and concluded his ill-tempered conversation with the bank manager. "Look, if I keep a couple of $100 in my current account, that's my lookout. I'm not even asking for any interest on it. All I'm asking is that you don't stick these bloody bank charges on when I go, once, twice a year into the red? It's not that I'm mean with money." Lewis's eyebrows ascended a centimetre. "But if you charge me again, I want you to ring me and tell me why." Morse banged down the receiver and sat silent. "You don't sound as if you've caught much of the Christmas spirit," ventured Lewis. "I don't like Christmas, never have." "You staying in Oxford, sir?" "I'm going to decorate." "What, decorate the Christmas cake?" "Decorate the kitchen. I don't like Christmas cake, never did." "You sound more like Scrooge every minute, sir." "And I shall read a Dickens novel. Reread, rather. Bleak House first, Little Dorrit second." He was interrupted at that point by the telephone ringing, and Morse's secretary informing him that he'd won £50 in the police charity raffle. "Scrooge, did you say, Lewis? I'll have you know I bought 5 tickets, £1 apiece, in that charity raffle." I bought 5 tickets myself, sir. Morse smiled complacently. Let's be more charitable, Lewis. It's supporting these causes that's important, not winning. I'll be in the car, sir, said Lewis quietly. In truth, he was beginning to feel irritated. Morse's irascibility he could stomach, but not him congratulating himself on his selfless generosity. Morse's old Jaguar was in dock again, so it was Lewis's job that day to ferry the chief inspector around, and doubtless too, if things went to form, to treat him to the odd pint or two. And this appeared likely, since Morse had organised things on that Tuesday morning so that their arrival at the George would coincide with opening time. As they drove, Lewis told Morse what he'd managed to discover about the previous day's events. The patrons of the George had amassed £400 in aid of the Littlemore charity for handicapped children, and this splendid total was to be presented to the charity's secretary at the end of the week, with a photographer from the Oxford Times to record the occasion. Mrs. Michaels, the landlady, had been dropped off at the bank by her husband at about 10:30 a.m, where she exchanged the motley assemblage of coins and notes for 40 brand new tenors. After this, she brought several items, including grapes for a daughter just admitted to hospital, before catching the bus back home, arriving just after midday. The money, in a long white envelope, was in her shopping bag, together with her morning's purchases. Her husband had not yet returned, and on re-entering the George via the saloon bar, Mrs. Michaels had heard the telephone ringing. Thinking that it was probably the hospital, which it was, she dumped her bag on the counter and rushed to answer it. On her return, the envelope was gone. At the time of the theft, there had been about 30 people in the saloon bar, including the regular OAPs, the usual cohort of pool players, and a pre-Christmas party from a local firm. From the very beginning, Lewis had known that the chances of recovering the money were virtually nil. Even so, the 3 perfunctory interviews that Morse conducted appeared to be Lewis to be sadly unsatisfactory. After listening to the landlord's unilluminating testimony, Morse asked him why it had taken him so long to conduct his business at the Cash and Carry, and although the explanation given seemed perfectly adequate, Morse's dismissal of this first witness had seemed almost offensively abrupt. And no man could have been more quickly antagonised than the temporary barman, who was on duty the previous morning, who refused to answer Morse's brusque inquiry about the present state of his overdraft. And as for the attractive auburn-haired Mrs. Michaels, the distressed lady had been unable to fight back her tears as she sought to explain to Morse why she had insisted on genuine notes for the photograph instead of a large fake cheque. But wait, something dramatic had just happened to Morse. Lewis could see that, as if the light had suddenly shined upon a man that hitherto had sat in the darkness. Morse smiled serenely, and promptly summoned into the lounge bar not only the 3 he had just interviewed, but all those now in the George who'd been drinking there the previous morning. As they waited, Morse asked for the serial numbers of the stolen notes, and Lewis passed over a scrap of paper on which some figures had been hastily scribbled. "For Christ's sake, man," hissed Morse, "didn't they teach you to write in school?" Lewis breathed heavily, counted to 5, and then painstakingly rewrote the numbers on a new piece of paper. 773741 to 773780. Morse gave the numbers a cursory glance before sticking the paper in his pocket and then proceeding to address the George's regulars. He was virtually certain, he said, who had stolen the money, and absolutely sure where the money was at that very moment. He had the serial numbers of the notes, and whilst the thief might have been tempted to spend the money earlier, they would not now. And why not? Because that person no longer had the power to resist their better self. In that bar, stilled now in silence as a grave, the faces of Morse's audience seemed mesmerised. Morse gave his instructions that the notes should be replaced in their original envelope and returned, he cared not by what means, to Sergeant Lewis's office at Thames Valley Police HQ within the next 24 hours. As they drove back, Lewis could restrain his curiosity no longer. "You really are confident that—" "Of course. I never seem to be able to put the clues together myself, sir." "Clues? What clues?" "There weren't any," muttered Morse. The next morning, a white envelope was delivered to Lewis's office, and though no one at reception could recall when or whence it had arrived, Lewis immediately rang Morse to congratulate him on the happy outcome of the case. "There's just one thing, sir. I'd kept that scrappy bit of paper with the serial numbers on it. And these are brand new notes, all right, but they're not the same ones. Really? Morse sounded supremely unconcerned. You're not worried at all? Good Lord, no. Just get that money back to the red-headed lady at the George and tell her to settle for a jumbo cheque next time. Oh, and one other thing, Lewis. I'm on leave, so no interruptions from anyone, understand? Yes, sir, and Happy Christmas, sir. And to you, replied Morse quietly. The bank manager rang just before lunch that same day. It's about the £400 you withdrew yesterday, Inspector. I did promise to ring about any further bank charges. Yes, said Morse. Apologies, but I needed the money rather urgently. I'll be in after Christmas to transfer some funds. Morse put the receiver down and again sank back into the armchair with the crossword. But his mind was far away, and some of the words he himself had spoken kept echoing around his brain. Something about one's better self. And he smiled, for he knew that this would be a Christmas he might enjoy almost as much as the children up at Littlemore would.
Wherefore art thou, Mother Christmas? I only wish I knew. My father should get all the praise, and no one mentions you. I'll bet you buy the presents, and wrap them large and small, while all the time that rotten swine pretends he's done it all. So hail to Mother Christmas, who shoulders all the work, and dine with Father Christmas, that unmitigated jerk.
People often ask me what I'd like for Christmas, so here's an idea. Give me the gift of a grip-top sock. A dip-drape, ship-shape, tip-top sock. Not your spiv, slick, slapstick, slip-shod sock, but a plastic, elastic, grip-top sock. None of your fantastic slack swap slop from a slapdash, flash, cash, haberdash shop. Not a knick-knack, knit-lock, knock-kneed knickerbocker sock with a mock-shot, blob, mottled, trick, tick-tocker clock. Not a rucked-up, puckered-up, flock-topped sock. Not a super-sheer, seersucker, pucker-sack smock sock. Not a spot-speckled, frog-freckled, cheap chic sock, or a hotch-potch, moss-blotched, botch Scotch sock. Nothing slip-slop, drip-drop, flip-flop, or clip-clop, but gift me to a tip-top, grip-top sock.
Looking from a window above, it's like a story of love. Can you hear me?
Came back only yesterday, I'm moving further away. Want you near me? All I needed was the love you gave. All I needed for another day. And all I ever knew, only you. Sometimes when I think of your name, and it's only a game, and I need you.
Listen to the words that you say. It's getting harder to stay when I see you.
All I needed was the love you gave. All I needed for another day, and all I ever knew, only you. Da 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 da. All I needed was the love you gave. All I needed for another day, and all I ever knew, only you.
This is gonna take a long time, and I wonder what's mine. Can't take no more.
Wonder if you'll understand, it's just the touch of your hand behind a closed door.
All I needed was the love you gave.
All I needed for another day, and all I ever knew, only you.
A little poem I thought would be rather nice, and it's called Santa's Prayer on Christmas Eve. The sleigh was all packed, the reindeer were fed, but Santa still knelt by the side of the bed. Dear Father, he prayed, be with me tonight. There's much work to do, and my schedule is tight. I must jump in my sleigh and streak through the sky, knowing full well that a reindeer can't fly. I will visit each household before the first light. I'll cover the world, and all in one night. With sleigh bells a-ringing, I'll land on each roof, amid the soft clatter of each little hoof. To get in the house is the difficult part, so I'll slide down the chimney of each child's heart. My sack will hold toys to grant all their wishes. The supply will be endless like the loaves and the fishes. I will fill all the stockings and not leave a trask. I'll eat every cookie that is left for my snack. I can do all these things, Lord, only through you. I just need your blessing, then it's easy to do. All that is to honour the birth of the one that was sent to redeem us, your most holy Son. So to all of my friends, lest your glory I rob, please, Lord, remind them who gave me this job.
I'll tell you an old Christmas story as we sit around the log fire at night. Why each Christmas tree has a fairy on top, and why Santa's beard is so white. It happened one winter in England, on a dark Christmas Eve long ago. There was Santa out doing his rounds and playing in sledge in the snow. He was taking all presents to houses, and then when the first job was done, he went round again with his fairies, putting Christmas trees in every one. Now, just when he thought he might finish, and last house were almost in sight, he went to fetch more trees off toboggan, and found he were just 4 trees light. This discovery quite upset Santa, so he gave his reindeers a shout, "Whoa up!" and he sent for his Christmas tree fairy to chastise her for leaving the moot. By gum, that's a daft little fairy. That's as daft as any fairy could be. When there's packed up to sledge this evening, they must have missed off some of the trees. Oh, bugger, replied the little fairy, which was really quite unfairy-like. I'll have to go back to factory. And with that she jumped on her bike. Hold on just a minute, cried Santa. There's a way that won't let you forget. Fetch one tree for each of your fingers on the right hand. You'll get it right yet. Then off like a shot went our fairy, much faster than light from the sun, 'cause Einstein hadn't yet been invented, so she wasn't to know it weren't done. Now, if you could have watched little fairy, there were trouble to come, you could tell, for when she was counting her fingers, she counted her thumb in as well. Now, Santa, he waited for hours, till his patience were running quite dry, till at last he saw fairy a-pedalling for all she was worth through the sky. But then, as fairy got nearer, Santa's anger it grew more and more. He could see from the load she was bearing that she had fetched him 5 trees and not 4. Then Santa got redder and redder, started roaring with all of his might, till the glow from his nose outshone Rudolph, and his beard, it was all turned to white. Why, that's stupid, he yelled at the fairy. That's 4 times as thick as I thought. Now go and put trees in last houses, and as soon as I's finished, report. So straightway off went our fairy, and as soon as she'd finished last place, she brought 5th tree back to Santa and waved it in front of his face. Whatever shall I do with this one? Our innocent fairy inquired. So Santa, he upped and he told her, 'cause by now we were feeling right tired. The fairy, she looked up at Santa, and her face it turned a mite red. But then, like the good little fairy she was, she went and did as he said. So now, at the end of my story, you'll see why to this very night each Christmas tree has a fairy on top, and old Santa's beard is quite white.
I want to be Joseph in our nativity play, and I believe I have an excellent chance. Angel Gabriel was never an option for me, 'cause for him you've to know how to dance.
I did think I might be a shepherd, but Mum says I'm allergic to sheep, and I don't fancy being King Herod, because you see, he's a bit of a creep.
Me and Jim auditioned as soldiers, but Jim giggled and tripped over my feet, so our teacher said no, which was a bit of a blow, as the helmets were really quite neat.
Perhaps I could be one of the wise men, though I didn't do well in my sats. And they don't appear till right at the end, so I don't think I'll bother with that.
Of course, there's always the donkey, and he's in nearly all the play. But the costume is scratchy and tattered, and smells worse than a cat's litter tray.
I won't even consider being the star, 'cause that part is not what it seems. Do you think I'll stand on a box with a star and a stick while my arm's going numb in your dreams?
Well, I'm really good at learning my lines, so I'm not being boastful or proud, but I refuse point blank to be a villager, as I'd just be a face in the crowd.
I asked Miss if I could be Mary, because that's the best part to be had. But she said that even in this day and age, Mary's not a role for a lad.
Do I want to be landlord of the Bethlehem Inn? You're joking. No, not on your life. The reason is simple. That bossy girl, Debbie Jones, is playing his wife.
Baby Jesus is always somebody's doll.
And with that state of affairs, I'm quite happy. I'm really too big to fit in the manger, and I just can't see myself in a nappy.
So you see, that only leaves Joseph. And I'm not being funny or weird, but I know I'm the best one for the job because I look so good with the beard.
The bells of waiting Advent ring. The tortoise stove is lit again, and lamp oil light across the night has caught the streaks of winter rain in many a stained glass window sheen, from Crimson Lake to Hooker's Green. The holly in the windy hedge and round the manor house the yew will soon be stripped to deck the ledge, the altar, font and arch and pew, so that the villagers can say, "The church looks nice on Christmas Day." Provincial public houses blaze and corporation tramcars clang. On lighted tenements I gaze where paper decorations hang, and bunting in the red town hall says, "Merry Christmas to you all." And girls in slacks remember Dad, and oafish louts remember Mum, and sleepless children's hearts are glad, and Christmas morning bells say, "Come," even to shining ones who dwell safe in the Dorchester Hotel. And is it true? And is it true, this most tremendous tale of all, seen in a stained glass window's hue, a baby in an ox's stall? The maker of the stars and sea become a child on earth for me? And is it true? For if it is, no loving fingers tying strings around those tissued fripperies, the sweet and silly Christmas things, bath salts and inexpensive scent, and hideous tie so kindly meant. No love that in a family dwells, no carolling in the frosty air, nor all the steeple-shaking bells can with this single truth compare, that God was man in Palestine, and lives today in bread and wine. Nativity. The icicles froze on the end of his nose, and Rudolph's red nose had turned blue. His cheeks, they were frozen like fish cakes as he wearily trudged door to door. Both his feet in his wellies were squelching like jellies, and his knees they were swollen and raw. He got rid of most of the presents when he suddenly heard a strange sound. It came from a car near a pub called the Star on an acre of derelict ground. So he pulled up the brakes on the reindeer for the cry of a baby he'd heard. But the car was in darkness, the engine was off, and so were the wheels, he observed. Then he reached in his sack for a pressie, but those left were all spoken for. All he'd got for the mite was a tatty old kite that he'd used twice for mopping the floor. So Santa had finished his journey, though the air was cold, that they say. Dewdrops formed on his nose, and they instantly froze, and icicles hung round his sleigh. They were just about reaching exhaustion when they found it was time to go back, and the reindeer fair flew down Ossison View, now the weight had gone out of their sack. They were all looking forward to supper, with cocoa and rum and mince pies, when Santa thought that he still hadn't brought a gift for the baby he'd heard cry. There was quite a big crowd round the car now, for the parties were ending, of course. There were 3 Indians with crepe paper crowns on the front legs of a pantomime horse. Father Christmas felt guilty and sorry, for all the best prezzies had gone, and the kid had a fright when he took out the kite from a bag that said "Made in Hong Kong." But the kite was all tattered and torn now. It didn't look much of a toy. It looked more like a cluster of bats in a duster than a gift for a new baby boy. But Santa Claus put down the pressie next to the small child in the car. Then in 2 minutes flat he was waving his hat and shooting off home, like a star. The wind blew all night round the baby. It howled like a vampire in pain. All the stuff off the kite blew right out of sight, and all that was left was the frame. And there, if you went, you could see them. The kite with its cloth torn away. The boy clinging tight to his cross all the night. The sole gift for his first Christmas Day.
Come on, Malcolm, how about pulling a Christmas cracker? Rocking around the Christmas tree at the Christmas party hop.
Mistletoe hung where you can see.
Every couple tries to stop. Rocking around the Christmas tree,
let the Christmas spirit be.
Later we'll have some pumpkin pie and we'll do some caroling.
You will get a sentimental feeling when you hear
Voices singing, let's be jolly. Deck the halls with boughs of holly. Rocking around the Christmas tree.
Have a happy holiday.
Everyone dancing merrily in the new old-fashioned way. Where do Santa's reindeer stop for coffee? Starbucks. Who's Santa's favourite singer? Beyond Sleigh.
Oh, how do Christmas angels greet each other? Hello. Why was the snowman rummaging in a bag of carrots? He was picking his nose. You will get a sentimental feeling when you hear
Voices singing, let's be jolly. Deck the halls with boughs of holly. Rocking around the Christmas tree.
have a happy holiday.
Everyone dancing merrily in the new old-fashioned way.
There was nothing the innkeeper liked more than a good night's sleep. But that night there was a knock at the door. "No room," said the innkeeper. "But we're tired and have travelled through night and day." "There's only the stable round the back. Here's 2 blankets. Sign the register." So they signed it, Mary and Joseph. Then the innkeeper shut the door, climbed the stairs, got into bed and went to sleep. But then, later, there was another knock at the door. "Excuse me, I wonder if you could lend us another, smaller blanket." "There, 1 smaller blanket," said the innkeeper. Then he shut the door, climbed the stairs, got into bed and went to sleep. But then a bright light woke him up. "That's all I need," said the innkeeper. So he drew the curtains, then got back into bed and went to sleep. But then there was another knock at the door. "We are 3 shepherds." "Well, what's the matter? Lost your sheep?" "Oh, no, we've come to see Mary and Joseph." "Round the back," said the innkeeper. Then he shut the door, climbed the stairs, got into bed and went to sleep. But then there was yet another knock at the door. "We are 3 kings. We've come round the back." He slammed the door, climbed the stairs, got into bed and went to sleep. But then a chorus of singing woke him up. "Right! That does it!" So he got out of bed, stomped down the stairs, threw open the door, went round the back, stormed into the stable, and was just about to speak when, "Shh!" whispered everybody. "You'll wake the baby." "Baby!" said the innkeeper. "Shh! Yes, a baby has this night been born." "Oh!" said the innkeeper, looking crossly into the manger. And just at that moment, suddenly, amazingly, his anger seemed to fly away. "Oh," said the innkeeper, "isn't he lovely?" "Oh, yes," said one of the shepherds. "He's beautiful." In fact, the innkeeper thought the baby was so special, he woke up all the other guests at the inn so that they could come and have a look at this special baby too. So no one got much sleep that night.
A Very Special Time of Year by Gervase Finn. December sunshine, bright and brittle, shone through the classroom window and lit up the vicar. His sparse, sandy hair shone like gold, and his small black eyes sparkled, and his cheeks shone as if they'd recently been scrubbed. "This is a very special time of year, children," he said jovially, addressing the infants who stared up at him with open mouths. "Can anybody tell me what it is?" "Christmas," volunteered a small, wiry boy with a feathery fringe, who began waving his hand in the air like a daffodil in a strong wind. It's Christmas." "It is indeed," agreed the vicar, smiling beatifically. "It's Christmas, and a very special time of the year." I'm getting a bike," the boy told him. "And I'm getting a doll what can wet her nappies and can talk," added a large girl with a round moon face and hair in untidy bunches. Now this was a signal for all the children to start shouting out what presents they were hoping to receive from Father Christmas. I'm getting a remote control car. I'm getting a train set. And I'm getting a... Children, exclaimed the vicar, raising his hand like a crossing patrol warden stopping cars. "Christmas is not just about presents, you know. It's really a celebration of a birthday, and it's the birth of a very special baby." I know what it were called," said the small, wiry boy. The vicar interlaced his long fingers just beneath his chin in the attitude of a child praying and smiled. "I'm very glad to hear it," he said in that salacious and kindly tone often possessed by men of the cloth. It were called Wayne," the child told him. "Wayne? Certainly not. What a thought!" cried the vicar in mock horror. "It were," cried the boy, undeterred. "Babby were called Wayne." "No, it wasn't called Wayne," said the vicar, his jaw tightening and his voice quavering a little. He bit his lip momentarily. The poor man had imagined that speaking to a group of small children about Christmas would be an easy enough task, but he was now regretting that he'd ever agreed to visit the school that morning. "The baby was called Jesus," the vicar told him slowly and deliberately. "It were Wayne," persisted the child, nodding vigorously. "Jesus," snapped the vicar. "Wayne," repeated the child. "I know, 'cause we all sang about it in the assembly. A Wayne in a manger, no crib for a bed."
Oh, hello! Fancy seeing you all here, hey? How are you? All right? I said, are you all right? Oh, I'm not. I thought I'd never get out of Morrison's. Have you been? Have you been in Oswestry today? Oh, packed. Packed it was. I tell you, the queues at the checkout. There was this fella stood in front of me. He was pushing and shoving and fiddling. Oh, yeah. Another fella stood behind me. He was pushing and shoving and fiddling. I'm going again tomorrow. I got on this bus. I sat next to a Scotsman wearing a kilt. He was wearing one of those sporran things. Do you know what I mean? A fur purse. When he got up to leave, I nearly fainted. I thought it was a small dog. I'd been stroking it for 1/4 of an hour. I'd given it a biscuit as well. And it ate it. Anyway, I just wanted to pop along to wish you all from the Atfield Theatre a very, very Merry Christmas. Yes. Oh no, we're still there, you know. Oh yes, yes. We can't wait to open our doors and welcome you all back. To thrill and entertain you in only how we know. So listen, in the meantime, have a very Merry Christmas and, more important, a very happy and healthy New Year. I'll see you again soon. Bye for now.